you so much, Ankesh, and very welcome to all of you who are behind this camera light. I cannot see you, and I know as teachers, ex-teachers, for us, this is really weird talking through a laptop or an internet, but let's do our best. And so I am doing a kind of a series of multiple intelligences in maths, and this is the second session, which is learning maths through pictures, which is a happy way of saying. If you want a very serious way of saying it, it is called visual spatial intelligence. So I thought this time I will give you a little bit of a background of what is going on. So according to an educator, a philosopher, a guide, Howard Gardner, we are all intelligent, but we are intelligent differently. For example, if you look at this graphic, you may be intelligent in the blue circle and not so intelligent in the lavender circle. So you are kinesthetic intelligent, which means that you can dance, you're sporty, you like to move, but you're not very socially all that comfortable. You could be intelligent in the red circle, which is you like to think for yourself, but maybe you're not so very happy in the orange circle. That is the nature bit. So in teaching, if teachers know that these kind of circles exist and these circles can go on increasing, we can have more intelligences around them as we grow as a humanity. If teachers know that these intelligences exist, then teachers can create lessons drawing sometimes from nature, sometimes from music, sometimes from sitting and working alone, sometimes from sitting and working with friends. And maths classes become very inclusive, which means that different types of children, all children don't live in this pink circle. How do I get a child who lives in a green circle to like my pink circle? And for that, if I bring in certain way of working from here, then I should be able to connect the children to mathematics well. So what I'm going to do is first explain a little bit. When we say visual learners, about 40% of children in classrooms are visual learners, which is a huge population. This is according to Mark Wall, who has done a lot of work on teaching maths in multiple intelligent way. Here are three graphics that kind of explain visual learners. If you say a word, a visual learner will see the word. It won't see the word, will see the picture. I'm one of those. This is a visual learner. If you say, clean your cupboard, somebody who is non-visual, sequential will go one by one, and I'm like that. If I have to clean my cupboard, everything comes out, my whole room is filled with stuff, and then slowly it goes back inside. This is another example. I don't look at guides or anything if I have to assemble something. I look at the final picture. So visual learners always look at the final picture. So they are basically, these are kids who think in terms of pictures. That's what, if we remember only that should be enough. And in this PPT, wherever I have taken some material from, either you will see a web link. If there is no web link, I will inform you. Either it's from my own classes when I was teaching, or it's just general Google and getting it from there. So I'm going to give you ideas in three sets. And I'm very aware that right now you're all teaching online. So I'm going to give you ideas in terms of online, how can you do this particular thing online. So there will be ideas in terms of I do, which means what can the teacher do. There will be ideas, what can the students do on their own. And there will be ideas where students can work with family. And I will try and give you both perspectives, classroom as well as online, so that you can immediately implement some of these. And it will be great if you can send us some feedback on which ones were successful, which ones were not. For all of us, this situation is new. So I do hope that whatever ideas I give you are useful in some way or the other. The way I see it is 500 teachers, if each teacher goes back home with one idea that can be practiced, that's straight away changing maths for about 50,000 children. So even if you go back home with one idea that you try immediately in your classes, that I think my life is set. So to begin with, in IDO, I'm going to give you 4 examples. I think in maths classes, you need to use visuals. Now, visuals can be 2 types. These are from my own classes. If you're using a whiteboard when you're teaching using your internet provider, your service provider, whether it's Zoom or whether it's Google Classroom, try and bring colors. Colors makes a huge difference to a visual. Whenever I write in this way, I will look at the red part, look at the blue part, look at 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very easy for them to break it up. The other is when you're giving worksheets, this is a worksheet for integers which I created, try and bring again some visual. Every concept in maths, if you go to a website called pinterest.com, or if you just go to Google and go to Google Images and type that particular topic, you just type integers word problems, somebody or others somewhere in the world would have a visual worksheet for it, and human beings are so generous, you'll find it. Get some visual. Also get the web link from where you got it, so that 1, you're not accused of plagiarism, which is stealing someone else's work, and second is others can take help. So if I know which web link you got this work from, I can always go there and do it. So this is, I would say, henceforth, every worksheet, one picture question, and that will keep the visual learners very happy. The other is, this is a very madly colorful graphic, but I would only like you to see here. I wouldn't expect that you do all of this. This is from an author at test.com, which is a website where teachers from across the world share their work and comment and give stars to each other's work. And at this time, when all of you are becoming so savvy with internet-based work, I would say each of you should have an account, upload your work, download others' work, see how happy you feel when people give stars to your work or leave small comments as to how I find your website or your documents very useful. And this is a graphic for mixed number to improper fraction, which is a very difficult concept for kids to remember. Now, whenever you have topics which are difficult to remember, a graphic like this helps. If you just look at this, 3 1 by 5, here the author has put into, here the author has put plus. So 3 into 5 plus 1, 16 upon 5. The rest, I won't say it's necessary unless you want it. So use graphic to convey your message. For example, as I am doing this webinar through Zoom, you will see my entire PPT will be visuals, because I know most of the teachers will be accessing it on phone. Maybe there's not so much possibility for text, and text heavy PPTs are boring for everyone. The third is, this is a screenshot of a video. You can easily find it by looking at this. It's from YouTube. This is a real life, which is real life videos are really handy. This is a video where the authors explain how quadratic equation is used to find whenever there is an accident, whether it was an accident or whether it was suicide or an accident, by looking at the braking distance. So they build a relationship. And when you're giving videos, videos are a very visual medium. The thing to remember is this is a 9.56 minutes video. It's not going to work if you just run it and then ask questions. It has to be paused maybe every 1 minute to get the kids back. When I use this video with the kids, my first question was, how many people do you see on the screen? Because I want you to know, what are they looking at? You don't even know. We don't know what the kids will look at it when they look at a video. And I asked, how many people are there? What are they wearing? What do you think is happening? And then they noticed, okay, there's a policeman, there's another person, and then it went on. And then I went on to asking math questions, that which problem is being discussed, who met with an accident, which topic is being used to do maths here. And with the video, if it's a 9.56 minutes video, have about 10 questions in it along with the video, which can be maybe emailed to the children. If showing the video via Zoom is difficult, as I am not trying right now, you can always send it to the kids before. You can send them the link, which you can easily find if you search for this, and ask them to play the video, and you have your questions on screen, or you can have your questions gone as a worksheet too. That I'm leaving it to you. Now I'm going to show you only this. This is because this is my favorite website. It's called mathsisfun.com. Use websites in teaching. And this website has all maths on it for all grades, all topics. I picked up specially the topic called exponents because one thinks exponents won't have any visual at all. Why I like this website is because it puts every concept, it converts into a visual and gives it to the students. And when I was teaching in the IB school, I used to use this almost every day. Because you know those times when students say, oh, I forgot what's volume of a cylinder, I forgot what is area of a square. My answer used to be only maths is fun, maths is fun. It was so clear that you have to go to the online dictionary and find it. When kids are working with you, ask them to keep this website open. If they have forgotten any concept, tell them to go there and see. We need to give children this habit of do it yourself. We need to give them this habit of don't depend on me when information is given on internet. This is a very Indian trait to expect others to do things for us. As the head of Medanta Hospital in Gurgaon said that Indian thinks discipline is for others. They feel they can do anything. And one of the things that we have, including me, when I struggle with this, is that we expect someone else would do things for us. I think if you can just start them with all the maths concepts of past classes that you have forgotten, get them out of this habit of asking you questions. Plus, this website can be used easily. It generally has a long page followed by questions. But what I like is every concept is converted into a visual which stays in the minds of students. And as I've used this millions of times with children, I found that even the weakest kids, they would look at this and they would say, yes, now I remember it. So here they draw a picture for every concept. So use this to teach, use this to flip the class, ask them to study something using this website on their own and come back. So this was I do. These are the examples that I wanted to share with you. Just 4 examples. Use visuals in every worksheet in your board work. Use graphics. Use videos which are with questions, and use Maths is Fun or this kind of a website which has a lot of visuals. So one question for you, which of these 4 ideas did you like most and you would like to try it in your class? And then we can see later when we open the chat as to which one of this did you find best. The second one is students do, which means that you're going to make students do this kind of a work, and I'm going to go a little slow on this. And I have 5 ideas for you here. All 4 ideas will end with having a digital portfolio for the students. Make them do mind maps. Mind maps is the design of a mind map is how cells are organized in the brain, the neurons. And if you have mind maps, it's easier to hold all the concepts in your head. Now, when you do mind maps, let them be colorful. This was my students. This was actually done in the class where the entire class did it together. Mind maps can be done on paper. There are also online portals where they can go and just type their mind map, download it, email it to you, or email you the link and you can check it out. Bring feelings into the mind map. So when I started with algebra with this class, I asked them, I want you to write on my mind map everything that you remember about algebra, but I also want you to write your feelings. So I get stuck in every concept of algebra. Somebody wrote I hate, somebody wrote I love, but they also wrote other things that you remembered about algebra. So mind map can be used at the beginning of a topic. What do you remember about it? Mind map can also be used at the end of the topic. What did you learn in this topic? Make it colorful, make it as creative as possible, which can be done using online, offline. Kids can do it offline on paper. click a picture, WhatsApp it to you, or whichever way you are connecting with them through Google Classroom or any other way. Kids can do it using online portals, and then again take a screenshot and send it to you. That's between you and it's up to them. But ask them to also write about how did you feel about this topic. Which part do you like? Did you like? Did you not like? And that also goes into the mind map. So this is one of the ways to make maths visual for the children. The other is, you know, I have no idea who decided that notebooks should be blue and white or black and white. But right now, depending on your school, if your school permits or not, I was very privileged to teach in schools where they said, do what you want. But right now, you don't really have, we are not in that strict classroom system. Right now, there is a certain loosening of structure. Bring colors in the notebooks, and I can guarantee you there'll be no kid who will be afraid of maths. I find in real life, I don't know how many of us have just black and white notebooks. When I am writing, I have my green, pink, blue, red, everything over here that I use. So it makes it visually appealing. This girl and this pictures are the left one, equivalent fractions, is from internet. This one is from my student. She used for bringing factors, common factors, she used Venn diagram. She actually brought bangles because she loved them. Later she had to draw a circle because you can't submit bangles, of course. And this way, I mean by visual, every concept, can you also teach them how to draw a visual to explain that concept? So colors is one thing, the other is explaining that concept using a visual. So example, draw 1 by 6, break it into 2 parts, break it into 3, you get 1 by 6, 2 by 12, 3 by 18, 4 by 24. Again, Google Images, type equivalent fractions student work, you will get millions of pages. People all over the world share their stuff like anything, and it's not a problem. Take a screenshot of it with the web link and then just use it for your students. Now, when students see this visual, they find it easy to understand how to get equivalent fractions. And the other way is you can do your own stuff. You can even ask them to use color. Avoid glitter pen because that's very bad for the eyes. When I discovered it myself, when the kids started writing in glitter pen, I had to put my clear boundary because glitter pen, your eyes will start hurting. So normal colorful pens, if it's possible, just make maths notebooks colorful and full of pictures. So this is what the students can do. Now, word problem is a universal issue. I have conducted workshops pan-India, and every workshop, at least one teacher will say, what do we do about word problems? So word problems, there is an acronym, PIES. Again, images from Google. This acronym is also available there. Pictures, information, equation, solve. If you can teach children that every word problem, convert it into pictures. Now here we have written use a visual fraction model, but you don't need to write that also. Just tell them, for example, for smaller classes, 5 birds on a tree, 3 flew away, how many remaining? Draw a tree, put 5 birds on it, 3 flew away, how many remaining? The child will draw a picture, the child will write all the information on the picture, the child will write the equation, 5 minus 3 equal 5 minus 3, and then the child will solve it. That is the answer. You can have a boat going upstream, downstream. I still cannot solve this question without actually drawing upstream. There's a boat here, there's a boat here, there's a distance. Ask them to turn word problem into pictures. They will also understand it better. You have a question, there is a room has to be put with tiles, there's a carpet, blah, 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 all that information in mensuration. Draw a rectangular room. If possible, tell them you can draw a room is generally brown color. It makes learning very personalized. My room is brown. I'll draw a rectangle. I've got this is 10 meter. This is 12 meter. My tiles are all 3 centimeter each. How many tiles I put? Small tiles. maths becomes clear in the head through the use of pictures. I think if you can just take one idea today from this webinar, if you haven't tried this before, if you can just take one idea, which is that just teach children to convert every word problem to pictures and then solve it, you'll be doing humanity a big favor, because they will grow up without feeling afraid of word problems or mathematics. So this is pies. Math art, this is my all-time favorite. This was my board in my classroom. When they have done shapes, what the instructions given to them are that the shapes that you know of, create a design. Now the design can be, you can give it a narrative, like there's a church and you want to have a window. You can even Google and show them some church images. Islamic art is beautiful. It's absolutely pure geometry. You can show them some Islamic buildings, Islamic artifacts, and show how geometry is the core of the artwork over there. You can show them maybe tiles on the floor, tiles in the bathroom, flower of life. Lots of math art designs are available, and then anything to trigger their intelligence. Now the condition is, when you do the design, all your math shapes should be constructed perfectly. That's how construction of maths is checked. But how you color them, sky is the limit for you. So this kid constructed a 20-sided polygon, and I asked him, how do you know this is perfect? He said, because all diagonals meet in the center. Now my job is done. He's understood how to construct. After that, he puts red on it, blue on it. It's up to him. It doesn't matter. All these are formative assessments, and all these are assessed on basis of maths as well as art, so that their work doesn't go wasted. And if this student wants to do it this way, up to him. This student wants to create a triangle, that's also up to him. Some of these are available, but maths and art is something you can do very easily yourself, or I think this is one of the places where child creativity comes out a lot, and this becomes like a project or a normal formative assessment. So this is visual. Now, this is something where I want to pause. I've given a link here which you can use. This is a very nice article. I feel since we are all doing so much of work online, it's time for children to have a digital portfolio. For example, I'm giving you so many ideas: make math and art, word problem in pictures, colors, mind map. Where will they present? In the classroom, you have boards around. You have a Google Classroom, you have a you can present their work. But if you don't have Google Classroom, there are ways. There are apps or websites called Classroom Dojo, blog. Like I blog where I put up my all my work. I switch off the video when I get a message that my internet connection is unstable. That's just to inform you. So they can have a blog, they can have a video channel where they can present their work, and it can be a classroom channel where kids are presenting. Considering safety measures online, keep it as open, in the sense as visible as possible, where parents can access it, schools can access it, talk to your school heads and see how safe is it, should we do it or not, because online environment is also becoming, or was always, a little dangerous. Online portfolio site, which can be Google Classroom, which can be Classroom Dojo. If you go to this link, you will get some more ideas. If you just Google how to have kids use digital portfolio, but a blog is fine, a blog where the kid can put, or you can even have a classroom blog with different pages for different students where they can present. It has to be presented, and in the school it's so easy. It can be very frustrating when you're not in the school, in the online environment. So take advantage of the digital world offering so many things for free, and this is something you can take back to school with you. A digital portfolio stays forever. It is also good, photographers have it, writers have it. I have a blog which is my digital portfolio. If anyone asks me, how do you think and what kind of a math do you do, I tell them, here's my blog or here's my YouTube channel, you can go there and see. Digital portfolio is like a resume, it stays with you. So a child can also build on this digital portfolio year after year. and showcase the work. You can showcase the work of the children. So this is something maybe you can explore with your school and see which one. I'm not giving any website over here because I don't want to endorse any. I'm just telling you what I do and what would be great to use. So this was, yeah. Now, these are times, this is something new for me. I really thought a lot about it this morning. These are times when kids are with parents. And there can be family projects on maths, which can be done with kids, with their parents. These can be outside the house. These can be inside the house. This can be every day or every week. The family goes on a maths treasure hunt around the house and finds the most exciting part. Maybe in the newspaper, for people who are still taking newspaper, some information. Can be a design on a leaf in the garden. Can be a window, and they click a picture and they send it up on the digital portfolio, or they send it to you on WhatsApp or wherever. It can be, so this is like, where is maths in my house? They can do a treasure hunt every day in a different room. It can be around the room. It can be in the lane for the non-red zone people. It can be in the building. For example, if I look outside my window, I can see a lot of math. I can see it in the windows. I can see it in the designs of the buildings. I can see it in the clothes which are hanging or the chair. So it's to connect kids to the maths in the surroundings. So what happened with my kids was they started noticing maths, and then they started asking questions. For example, kids noticed when going on a drive with their parents, this was way back when I was teaching, and the parents informed me, they would see a phone tower and they would ask, why is it that it's always a triangle? They would go on a flyover, why is it a curve like this? They started asking questions because first step was they started noticing, look, here's a curve, we did it today. Look, here's a triangle. Look, and then they said, why are all buildings rectangles? So they start noticing the presence of maths around, and the whole idea of maths is useless goes out of their head. And most of the kids who do not relate to maths, they do not relate because they don't know the use of maths. And this is family project. So I'll give you some ideas. These are of course from internet. Now, this is a website that you have to go to, ucube.org. This is started by long back. I did a course with this lady. She's Dr. Jo Boaler from Stanford University, who has done some amazing work in maths. All first, she went into classrooms and experimented, and then she wrote about it. So she has, this is nothing but a sidewalk chalk design, which is so simple. You can just have colored chalk or even colored powder, or families can innovate, maybe use turmeric, something from meal from the bathroom, different color powders, and just family creates a design together. And while the family is working together to create the design based on geometry, a picture is clicked, and that goes as part of the students' work that, okay, this is a family project that we did. We can even do Rangoli, if Rangoli colors are available. In India, we have Kolam, South India, Rangoli is the rest of the part. They can even do a Rangoli time with the family. It can be a project that runs into a few days. If every day, let's say 15 minutes, the family spends together. And again, a very nice memory can be created for the family, that we all got together and we did some art and maths and we created this visual for ourselves. So this is one. This, of course, is from India. Some of you might be aware of it. Warli art, which is from Rajasthan, W-A-R-L-I. And Mr. God, Google will have all information. Warli is done using triangle, with one side can be a little curve, circle, straight line, curved line. So you will see only these. With that, the amazing artists of Warli create these kind of designs. Warli is generally found on walls. And imagine a family that can take a wall of the house and decide we are going to paint it using Warli. And it's generally brown. But as I don't like to stay in structures too much, Let them have choice. You can use the colors that you want, but maybe there can be a next 2-month project that a family converts a section of its wall into Varli art, where every member of the family is a part of that particular design, which means that they do the design first on paper and then they put it up on the wall, and every member participates. These are stressful times. There are families which are breaking. There are families which are going closer. And maybe a project can be given. Art is a huge, huge, huge stress buster. You can try it with your own family first. And if there can be a project where the family works together on something artistic, creating a visual based on mathematics, where they can even discuss so many things over here, you could be doing them a big favor. The other is in family outside. Where is maths outside? This is just one example. It's just like, just go outside in nature and see where is maths outside in nature. Where is maths inside our house? Can we build a model of our house? Now, when you say build a model of this house, you can even add for the kids, what changes would you want? Suppose you had the freedom to decide your room. It can be the whole house. It can be take a graph sheet and map your room. Show what is where. If you're doing coordinate geometry, show what is where and write the coordinates of it. And if you had full freedom, what changes would you make? Can you go convince your family that I want these changes to be made in my room, and ask for their permission? So something like this, where the family comes together, they do some maths, can be a very good idea over here. So I would go back. 5 ideas. These are for students. I forgot to ask you, which one do you think you would like to do? And I want to pause now. And then I give you ideas for family. I want to pause now and see, because I can see so many questions here in the chat box, and let's take some questions. Monica, is it okay if we take questions? Ankesh, Monica?
Yes, ma'am, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, this chat box, right?
Yeah. So what I'll do, I have few questions in
Yeah,
the
if you
questions
can
tab.
give me, yeah, if you
Yeah.
can tell me, because these are too many. Yeah.
Ma'am, there's one question from Meghna, ma'am. Would like to hear about the suggestion and ideas on grade 1 to 5.
Okay, grade 1 to 5, 1 is in visuals. I think every time they do, every worksheet should have a picture. I'm only going to stick to visual intelligence ideas right now, not other ideas. The other is have them, even grade 1 to 5, there are web links, there are videos that you can have. And in the students, they may not be able to do mind map, but they need to draw pictures for whatever they are learning. This is from grade 1 to 5 only, finding equivalent fractions. Whenever they do a word problem, let them do it in pictures. I think grade 1 to 5 can just bring some art or a picture in everything that they do. But if she gives me a specific topic, then I can give exactly a specific idea. And I think grade 1 to 5 would love to do a family project.
Okay, I would like to ask the next question. I cannot name the person who has actually asked the question. Name is
No
appearing as
problem.
Vivo. So I would like to ask questions. If we have 3 or 4 digit number, how can we
Yeah.
draw a picture?
Okay. 3 to 4 digit number, the picture is very, very simple. It's in a place value, have a place value house. So draw the boxes, and on top of that, they can write unit 10. Instead of writing unit 10, they can have 1, 10, 100. They can also have unit instead of 10, a stick, instead of 100, a square, and instead of 1000, a tiny cube. And that's how they remember the place for these particular numbers. That's the three or four digit. This is for small kids when they are doing place value. If it is part of the higher kids, you can ask them to draw a picture which gives a word problem using these numbers. So you can say 3,446, 7,129, and apples, orchard, something. The kids have to write a word problem with an illustration on it to indicate what this number is. So they might say there are 3,000 these many apple trees and these many something else, and then there are these have to be collected, and the whole narrative can be prepared by them. But the condition is whatever they are doing along with that, have a picture. They draw something. Good questions, both very good questions. More, Ankesh?
Yes, ma'am. The next question is, can we use maths art to teach pattern and symmetry?
Absolutely, it's amazing. I think that's an amazing idea. Symmetry is completely artwork only. Take the best symmetric designs and ask the kids, just ask them, give them a graph sheet, ask them to design, again, on paper or on online. Give them that choice. They can easily download a graph sheet. I think today's generation has got technology in their blood. So you have to just give them the right instructions, download a graph sheet, get colors, or even ask them only, figure out how do we draw things on the internet, use Microsoft Paint or any other software. So, but give them choice for kids who are not, who don't feel like doing online, or I think kids just like choice, either a graph sheet or a graph grid, and draw a symmetric shape, or create questions on symmetry, where you have a line and one side there is an image and the other side has to be done. And those questions can be exchanged with other children. They can email their questions and the other kids can solve the worksheets and give them. So that way you've even got peer assessment in it. So symmetry is completely pictorial. Find the top 10 most symmetric buildings in the world and screenshot and send them. Find the top 10 asymmetrical buildings and take screenshot. Write a note on what looks more beautiful. Like if you see buildings in Dubai, they are so asymmetrical, but they are awesome. Like you wonder, how did they build this? So which is more beautiful? Is the symmetric or asymmetrical? Get them to think. Yeah, next question. That was a good question.
Okay.
This is a good question.
So, ma'am, the next question is, any tips for pre-primary students?
Pre-primary students, I think, I don't know how much you can do online work, but I would say pre-primary students, as soon as they start doing numbers, let them to start draw along with it. So let's say kids create a number notebook. Every time they do one, they draw something one. Whatever is their favorite object in the world with their favorite color, they draw that thing. Pre-primary kids, maths is weird, scary, because numbers, symbols, make it personalized by asking them to draw a picture, and that number notebook keeps increasing. When they learn 2, 3, 10, 20, whatever they learn, depending on the school and the curriculum you are in, the picture notebook keeps increasing.
Ma'am, the next question is, okay, can you tell more activities to take in an online class?
I think I've given quite a few online activities. If beyond this, if teachers want, like if you go to these web links which I have given, you will find a lot of activities. But if you have any specific topic, I should be able to do that, because in a way, what I could have you online activities. You can have a digital portfolio. You can go to start with Maths is Fun as a website, and then take it from there, one baby steps. Maths is Fun, use that, and then at the end of it, there are 6 or 7 questions. Always give the kids those questions to solve. Then there is a website called AAAmaths.com, which has lots of quizzes. So the kids learn the topic, then they do the quiz, and that quiz can also be emailed to you. You can look for online crosswords, which you go online and do, and sometimes a whole group can do it together. You can do online word searches. Those are also available online. You can look up a website called Maths Gym, Maths Playground. I can just Google, but if you have any specific topic, I can help you with. But use this time to become Google savvy. That if you look up, you'll get activities to do. Maths Playground has a lot of web-based activities for students. But the important thing is, don't forget the goal. The goal is explaining the topic. The goal is that they should understand what the topic is all about. The goal is not the activity. Activity is the tool. And keep that in mind that it's like, all the instruments are there in the hands of the surgeon, but the surgeon who performs the surgery, or the cook who cooks, all the other things, the utensils in the kitchen are for the cook to use. So you remain the head chef in the classroom. Don't get so distracted by online material that you can do a lot of creative stuff. Just begin slowly. Start by, let's say, simply, I'm going to have a digital portfolio where kids are going to click pictures and upload their work, and parents can also see it, and parents will absolutely super happy when they see their kids work online. Just start with that, or say, okay, I'm going to use maths as fun from now on, at least once a week, to teach the kids or to ask them to learn something on their own. Or even say, just start with one idea. I'm going to start with a family art project. So start with that, and slowly you will build it up.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is how to deal with decimal operations, decimal point confusions.
Okay, so decimal is an extension of place value. So if they make place value boxes, they extend it to the right side with the decimal in between. And decimal is something which, what I found, was very easily remembered. If you tell the kids in Hindi, we used to say, because I'm from North, dot ke niche dot, or dot below the dot. So tell them, first put the dot or the bindi, and they can actually put a bindi there, or they can take a colorful pen and first put dots, then write the numbers, and then do the operation. But if they are finding it difficult to do plus and minus in decimal, then they haven't got the plus and minus of whole numbers also. So that's not a problem of decimal, that's a problem of simply place value. And place value helps a lot with art. You can just have nice place value houses and tell the kids which house, if there's a number 123, which house will 3 go, which house will 2 go, which house will 1 go, and draw tiny designs on the top. Dot for units, a little stick for tens, a little square for 100. And in each house, maximum 9 people can live. If there is one more, then the whole group goes to the next house. So you have a visual and you have a little bit of a story combined to do that. But decimal, just tell them, first put your bindi ke niche bindi or dot below the dot and make it as big as you want, and then write the other numbers. I think if you do that, they should be able to remember it better.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is any suggestions or activities on Pythagoras theorem?
See, Pythagoras theorem is one of the most proven theorem in the world. You can give them so much. You can give them investigation. Who was Pythagoras? Where was he born? What did he do? Why? It's like English questions. No, who, what, why? And they go and investigate, and along with pictorials from his life, they create a presentation on a Word doc, or you can have a Google Drive and they present it, put it up over there, or they can have their own video presenting it. And I'm just giving you an online project for them. This can also be done offline. The other is, find any 3 ways of proving Pythagoras theorem. So one can be, you put squares on all the sides, but there are also proofs where you put cylinders on all the sides and find the volume of the cylinders, and there are more proofs to do that. Pythagoras started a school, but Pythagoras also believed that there are only whole numbers that exist. And the moment somebody said irrational numbers also exist, because if the base and height are 1 each, the hypotenuse is √2, he got them murdered because he didn't want to accept that they were irrational numbers. This is all stories from history. So you can ask them also to say, what led to this? How was root 2 discovered? Because base and height are one each, then the hypotenuse. So you can give them activity where they design a project. You know, don't look for activities which increase your work. Look for activities which make you a better manager, and the kids do the work. So you tell them, I want you to find information about Pythagoras theorem based on these 5 questions, and then I want you to present it. You can present it in the form of your own video, you can present it in the form of a document, a pictorial something, and everything gets uploaded on digital portfolio. I'm telling you, if it's not uploaded, half of the joy just goes down the drain. And teach them, find me 3 great proofs of Pythagoras theorem and present them. They can even have a chalk and board in their house and write on it. I've seen videos on YouTube where people are just writing on a paper with pen and they create a YouTube video out there. Creativity side, leave it to them. So you can do this Pythagoras theorem as an online project. And similarly, it can be an offline project. Find 3 best proofs, give a presentation on who was Pythagoras and what did he prove, or how did Pythagoras theorem lead to discovery of root 2? That can be a kind of a thinking question. And the easiest would be take a graph paper, draw a right triangle, draw a square on all the sides, find areas of the squares. What do you discover? And they will discover that one area is equal to sum of the 2 areas and therefore square sides. But this is something which is used a lot, and that will be the simplest activity that you can use.
Okay, ma'am, the next question is, how do we test or assess students, especially of secondary and higher secondary level?
Okay, this is a question which teachers are asking all over the world. They're really finding it very difficult to ensure that kids are sending honest work. And one thing you can do is look up Facebook groups of maths teachers and join them, international groups, because these are debates going on and on. Lots and lots of new websites and apps are coming, which are making it easy. So one of the things you can do is, like I gave, let's say you want them to draw a mind map, ask them to use a software, online software, all free. Everything has a free version and a paid version. So I live on free stuff. Make a mind map online and mail it to you. Now, there is no way for those who will fudge. But one thing you can do is, for simplest solutions are, ask the kid, click your picture when you're working. If it's a very important assignment, make a video of yourself working on it, and that video comes as part of the work. So it's like evidence that your work was your own. In international maths, the evidence of work is considered a very, very highly important thing. So we would tell the children that you do this project, but I also need evidence that you have done it yourself, and the kids figured out how to get that evidence. Easiest is click a picture, make a video of yourself. Slightly harder would be to use online portals where they work and they send it. Another thing could be that shift most of your assignments to classroom. And finally, if there is a small percentage of kids in your class who are fudging, that's okay. Chill, that's part of teaching life. The same kids who fudged so much of work in my classroom today are doing something fantastic. They will do it. Focus on the majority, what the majority is doing. But assessment is an area which everybody is wondering, questioning how to do it. That is a 50-50 thing right now with online world, as far as I know.
Ma'am, the next question is, any simple idea for teaching algebra? Teaching idea for teaching algebra.
Okay. Again, do you think you all can specify whether you're looking for online classes or offline classes? Because algebra has something really fantastic called as algebra tiles, where you get tiles which are called X, Y, 1, 2, 3, and the kids have to assemble the tiles to form it, which is again available as packets which can be bought. You can create them, kids can create them using paper if you are in a classroom, and online there are websites. If you just look for algebra tile maker, you can get online algebra tiles activities. where kids can assemble it. So what it does is it turns a very, and I'm happy this question was asked, it's a great question. It makes a very mathematical abstract concept, it turns it into visual algebra tiles. It's a very known thing. You can use that, and kids can also maneuver it. So you can give some activity, online activity as a homework. You can also maneuver it on Zoom and teach them something. The other is there is a website you should explore, GeoGebra, GeoGebra. GeoGebra is a site with mathematical software created by an American. It's completely free. If you are tech savvy, you can go, there are ready activities available on all topics under the sun from kindergarten to 12. But if you are tech savvy, especially if you know coding, all the activities can also be modified and you can save it in your version. So GeoGebra, Geo, and then Gebra, Gebra, you can have a free account for yourself and have your own folder of activities, and every topic under the sun visual is available. For example, if you want to show, here is an axis, and if this line goes around it, forms a cylinder, there's an activity which actually shows that when a line goes around this, it forms a cylinder. And it's an American person, and he has kept it absolutely free for teachers around the world. This is if there's for the techies in this group, do use that site for teaching. And once you've created an activity, you can send the link to the children also, and they can explore it. They can have their own account. They can use that activity. How you use it is up to you, but look up this website. A lot of work for you I'm giving, but it's, I think if you do this for a year, you will be a very different teacher, and teaching also will be very fulfilling, because you'll be the tech generation teacher. And as they are saying slowly that we don't think teachers will ever be obsolete, but definitely tech savvy teachers are going to have an edge in at least in the coming future. So get your hands on any one thing to begin with, and then take it from there. Just decide this is my first step. Let's say today I'm going to go into GeoGebra. As maths teachers, you will love it. Or today I'm exploring maths is fun. Or today I'm going to do maths and art. Any one thing start with, and then take it from there.
Okay, maybe the last question, ma'am, to end the session.
Yeah, it's almost time.
Have a lot of, yes, we have a lot of questions. We'll try to answer all of them offline, but since there's a limitation of time, we won't be able to take most of the questions. So the last question by Deepa Nath, ma'am, could you please elaborate little more on mind maps with respect to addition?
Okay. So I wish I could hear them, but let's say there is a mind map and here you have write addition. So I'm going to tell the children everything that you know about addition right here. So the student might write plus. 2 plus 3 equal to 5. Opposite of subtraction. 1 plus 1 plus 1 equal to something. Has carryover. And a repeated addition is multiplication. Depending on which grade the child is, all these dashes will come. These were all taught by the kids. So what it does is it gives a kind of a space where there is an explosion of thinking. All the ideas come out right in front of the child as a picture. It can also be, child may also write, is spelled as ADDITION, 8 letters. It's in a mind map, nothing is wrong. So you just say, I want you to do a mind map on addition. If the kids haven't seen a mind map before, you might have to give them some trigger to think about it, and then just leave it to them. I'm always surprised by the outcome. When you leave it for the kids to do it, it's always amazing the kind of outcome that comes. And you can also ask them to write in the mind map, what do you think about addition? Do you find it easy? Do you find it hard? Where is it used? Can you write a word problem? Can you draw a picture which represents addition? So all these become small webs. And sometimes from each branch, this is a very simple mind map. Otherwise, from each branch, more branches come, then more come, then more come. And it's like a spider's web. It goes on increasing. Another good question.
That's it from the question side, ma'am.
Okay, so we can wind up then. I think we can. This will be available for them. No,
Yes, ma'am.
if just remember. Yeah, please go ahead.
So yeah, so basically there is a feedback link that will be posted on the chat. Do share your feedbacks for us. Those are important for us to bring such sessions to you. The
Yeah.
recording of this session would
Yeah.
be available on our YouTube channel, Cambridge India. You can check the recordings, maybe not just after the session. Give us 2 days of time. The recordings would be up there. So in case you have missed out any part of the session due to some audio or technical glitch, you can have a view of the recording through through our YouTube channel. Over to you, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for being here. It was an interesting session. I think the questions were really great.
Yeah. So in case we miss out to answer any of your questions, you can follow us up on schools@cambridge.org. Do post your questions. We'll love to answer that. Thank you. Thank you for joining the session.
Bye.
Monica, can you end the session?